Greetings! Now I invite you to explore with me the science of happiness, which I will say now is about the proper relational ratio to our source, to the divine. So we know the golden ratio, for example, that harmonious relationship of the spiral, and that same thing applies on our well-being, and it is based on our relationship, proper relationship to our source. So first of all, we need to acknowledge that everything has a singular pure source, and nothing can exist separately. We as those human beings cannot exist on our own. So everything belongs to that source, and it is the same with our creations. So nothing we can create separately. Everything we use is already the product of massive collective co-creation, which emerges from that singular source. So when we acknowledge that, then we can start to actually feel that connection and let go of our ignorance, our arrogance. We can feel more connected to the wholeness of infinite existence. And that is essential, because if we lacking that, if we do not develop and cultivate our relationship to our source, then we feel disconnected, we feel separate, and then we take too much of responsibility, of authority, and control on our little shoulders, on our limiting beliefs, when we can feel like our well-being depends on many different forms and achievements, and that always causes suffering, because again, everything belongs to that one source. Even our experience of everything. So when you really contemplate deeply on that fact that everything belongs to singular source, then you will wake up to that what is now experiencing is nothing other than that. And it is just our limiting beliefs, and ignorance creates illusion that we are those independent, separate beings having all of those experiences as those personas, but persona is just a mask for that divine light. So at the core of your experience, you are that source. Even though how you process, how source process its experience through this human body, through this unique channel, it has particular style for that. We are unique channels, for that divine. So in this format, we naturally limiting our spectrum of experience, because yes, we are exploring whatever we are exploring here. So we are infinite, but at the same time we are experiencing that infinity in a limited way, even though it is always infinity even within those limitations. So it is also always a ratio, it is always relationship between finiteness and infinity. So when we developing that sense of connection, when we are able to see through the particular forms of experience, and we allowing ourselves to feel that pure space and unconditional support of that space, then we can relax into that, to give ourselves as those human beings to that original authority, to that original governance of God. And it is like being a baby in a loving parent's embrace. So it is best to just feel and hold that connection with your attention, to acknowledge that there is greater being beyond our understanding that holds all of our complex experience effortlessly. So then, yes, everything returns to that proper ratio. And there is also a very interesting paradox when we allowing that, when we become like those pure babies, letting in the unconditional love of the divine, then we also are waking up as those divine parents, when there is more space in our experience, and when we actually start to feel ourselves from that core, from that source perspective. And with that, we also take appropriate responsibility for our experience, but not too much. Yeah, it's all about ratio. So with that awakened and relaxed state, we just naturally, intuitively feel how much responsibility, how much we need to respond to whatever is happening for experience to be harmonious. But it is felt in that relationship, in that feeling of unconditional support, in that flow of holistic movement of the cosmos. So there is a lot that we can't even perceive now, what is happening behind the scenes. And it happens a lot. There happens a lot. And yeah, we do not control everything as these channels, as these human beings. So yeah, the majority of control is in that flow, in that surrender. But yeah, that surrender also gives us our appropriate responsibility, our ability to respond with this holistic movement of life in a best and enjoyable way. So yeah, that's how it works, and I invite you to really ponder on that. And you can imagine also that golden ratio, that spiral. It can also trigger that sense of universal harmony in which you are experiencing yourself. So yeah, this physical reality, this body is like a end, like a tip of that spiral. And of course it also continues, but this is like a tip of the divine pen, which writes a story, the greatest story of eternal life. Yeah, but also you can start to feel more of that extension from where this creation is coming from. And that gives more sense of that harmonious movement. You can then feel the natural momentum of synchronicities, and yeah, that sense of epic story that you are living in this epic fairy tale. So the more you feel and expand your consciousness into that spiral of creation, yes, the more magic you notice. And yes, and it naturally gives you that sense of proper ratio, proper relationship to that. So again, wrap your consciousness around it and keep reminding yourself of that source connection, relation. Keep surrendering in that warm, loving feeling that you are belonging to that infinitely benevolent and intelligent source. And from that state, just do what you wilt and enjoy. Much love and see you soon.